Feel Strong Fitness Podcast. My name is Justin McClintock, and this week we have the founder and host of the Real Coaches Summit, co-host of the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast, the most responsive, affordable, and full-service coaching experience available on this fine internet, and I'm going to say the best pedicure in the business, Aram Grigorian.
Wow.
Welcome to the Feel Strong Podcast.
It was good about a month ago, dude, but I have to go back and get it touched up. I forget that pedicures need to be maintained because I'm still so new at it that I could just keep my nails painted and they look good from the top, but I know that they're probably longer than they need to be. So, just another commentary on having to take care of yourself regularly and it being mundane.
Care and maintenance. And once you start something, it's kind of always a thing, especially once people start noticing.
Honestly, dude, I mean, what a great commentary and segue into just nutrition and fitness and lifestyle and sleep and hydration and movement, like all these things that we start doing as people to try to better our health or our mental health or whatever. I think people still have this idea that there's like an ending to it. Like, I'm going to do this.
There's a finish line.
Yeah, like I'm just going to do this. And at some point, it's going to stop when you're dead. That's for sure. I can guarantee you that. And you can certainly stop and get off the train at any moment in time you want to. But wherever you stop is where you stop, and you're not going to get any further. And that's the problem. I think people just really, wow, did I just create an analogy I never used before? Yeah, I think I did. Fitness and nutrition are like a train. And if you stop, you don't get the results that you could have if you waited all the way to the end, which there is no end. It's kind of like, have you ever seen that movie with where they're like on the train because it's too cold outside for people to get out?
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's not Snowbound. Snowpiercer?
Snowpiercer, yeah, with the guy, with Chris Evans.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the train just has to keep going around and around and around because that's the only way the human race can survive because it's too cold outside for them to live. That's just kind of the perfect analogy for how we need to always perpetually be taking care of ourselves. Not like 100% all in all the time, but like some bare minimum most of the time.
Yeah, I often talk about it like driving, sort of similar to a train. Like sometimes we're pedal to the metal, focused, all in. Sometimes we're, easing off over in the right-hand lane, cruising along just under the speed limit. But we need to keep moving forward, which is why, and I love the way you approach these things. Whenever someone tries to do something really extreme, whatever it is, a named diet or a super fad workout or something, my question is always, okay, what after this? If this works, whatever quote unquote works means, if this is successful, what will that look like? Then what? Which is usually met with blank stares or anger.
I always wonder also too, like, what are people's measuring sticks for results?
What's success? It's such a big question.
I was talking to Anne from our group yesterday, and she was talking about how, she wants to get leaner, but then she also wants to have a great deal of performance enhancement with her runs and stuff that she has coming up. And I'm like, you have to understand, like, you're very, very type A, and you're always going to push the goalpost further and further away from yourself. And it's going to come to a point where, like, you love being the hardest worker in the room, and that's a process-based thing, which is great. I'll encourage that all day long. But when you start wanting to be the best at everything, well, you're going to get beat by somebody better than you at some point, or you're not going to be as good as a version of yourself was at some point either because your circumstances have changed. So it's either going to be you beating yourself or losing to yourself, or you losing to somebody else. So you'll never stay at the top. And that's not discouragement to not try or to not start. It's just to make sure that you have a reasonable expectation of the process and where it's going to end up, because you can't, like, whether it's leanness, whether it's, strength, whether it's finances, whatever, there's always this constant need to reevaluate where you're at and what you're doing so that you prevent that level of stagnation. But then there's also the ability to have to, like, if you're at the top of the mountain, like, enjoy the view for a little while. I think so many people achieve XYZ, or they get to some level of leanness, or they start to feel better, and then they don't even get to enjoy it. They're just always like sitting in this perpetual, like, well, what's next? Well, there doesn't have to be anything next. This is it.
That, I think, is really uncomfortable for some people to hear. And I will often do this, especially with a lot of the folks I work with are kind of like chronic pain or have had big setbacks, issues that are going to take months plus to solve. So one of the conversations we'll have is, hey, 3 months from now, what are some things that will be true that will show us we are succeeding? Not that we're done, not that we're 100%, but what are the kind of things that would be going on where we could point to and be like, oh, this is working. Like, oh, I can run up the stairs without worrying about it. I can play pickleball. I can jump in my CrossFit workout. I'm sleeping better at night. Whatever the things are, we try and map out some like reasonably concrete things we can look at, and that also keeps me honest, right? Like we get there because you have good days, you have bad days. There's setbacks, life gets in the way, kids, career, etc. But if we can say, hey, when you started, you were sleeping 4 hours a night. Now we're consistently sleeping 6 hours a night. Are we happy? No. Are we happier? Yes. We're pointed in the right direction, and that's pretty cool.
That's why I always love talking to you, man. I think you're one of the only coaches that I've had the pleasure of connecting with in the last 5, 6 years in this business that you truly see the way that this should work, which is as slow as it needs to or as fast as it needs to. And you also have, I think what separates you from a lot of people is you know how to ask the right questions to the right people to make sure that their level of, I want to say, satisfaction with the process is high enough for them to stick with the process. I think what a lot of like there's a lot of good coaches that can get people end results, right? And it's always, again, it's that concept of our time together is finite. You're going to get this end result, but then you're going to leave, and I don't really give a shit what happens to you afterwards. As opposed to, I think what separates you from the rest of the pack is that you truly do invest emotionally into your clientele base, and probably sometimes to a detriment to your own mental health, because I know how I feel about certain things, and it certainly drives me crazy when some people don't get what they need or don't get what they want because they're just not following a process or they're not showing up for themselves, and you take that personally to some degree. But what I think is really wonderful, man, about the way that you do things is that there's always a conversation that you know how to have with people to be able to extract something better out of them. And that's a skill set that you can't teach people, man. Like, you either have that because you give a shit and you understand how to communicate, or you don't, and you better hope that you can learn something like that over practice and time because you're aware of the limitations you have as an individual. But that's, if I'm going to sit here and jerk you off a little bit, that's what I'm going to tell you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm definitely gonna be using that as a testimonial in 3 months. You'll be cut up on the internet outside of podcast context. I really appreciate that, but I feel like I think this is part of the reason we're aligned. I felt like you're so good at approaching things and sometimes having really challenging conversations with people, being very realistic about things. And especially in the world of, you spend a lot of time in the world of nutrition and a lot of time around kind of quote unquote fat loss, body recomposition stuff. And that world is so crowded with bullshit. And people, the shiny thing complex, and there's so many people who are just like affiliate code pushers for a living. They call themselves coaches, and they really just have 90 affiliate codes in a white label supplement. And you're on the other side of that, having really direct conversations with people. Correct me where I'm wrong. That's my impression.
I would say you're spot on, man. I mean, I'd say like where I pride myself in is in disseminating complex science and making it as simple as possible, and then being able to have empathetic yet uncomfortable conversations with people to then illuminate opportunities for them to get unstuck. Because almost every single time you have a problem with something in your life, it's probably because of some shitty decisions you made along the way. It's not because the world is angry and mean specifically towards you, or it's unfair only to you. Like, most people are dealing with some type of a struggle or a challenge almost every single day that they have to actively fight and overcome. And it's the people that just have this ferocious ability to be consistent and have very little expectations, which those are the people that succeed. I mean, like, I don't, I think where I'm even set apart as an individual is I just let stuff slide off. Like, a bad day slides off. Shitty month of income slides off. Back pain that prevents me from training harder slides off. Like, I know that everything in life that's either good or bad or indifferent is temporary because nothing stays the same always. I mean, life is so dynamic, so constantly ever evolving and changing. And if that drives us crazy as people, we're going to have a miserable go at it. And it's going to always be this level of anxiety and overwhelm and chaos, as opposed to, like, yeah, things are supposed to fucking change. We're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to fail. We're supposed to fuck up. We're supposed to have moments of complete and utter boredom with absolutely no direction in sight. And that's just, it is the way it is. And I think when you're beating the shit out of yourself for all these things and thinking that you specifically are getting some shitty hand, when in reality that's all of us, Well, you're not in any position to help yourself. And that's why, like I was telling you before we started, the whole very disempowering message that I'm seeing today in like the menopause and perimenopause community that it's being directed towards women. It's like, well, you're old and your hormones fall off a cliff and you're so much more sensitive to things. And you're this individual special flower that's incapable of results unless you take XYZ supplement or learn my specific method of doing it, as opposed to like, the basics are always going to work. I literally don't care if you're a man, a woman, a fucking canine. The shit always is. If you want to be less fat, you have to eat less than your body needs. That's it. It doesn't have to be like that number may not be a number you like, but you and I have no say in that. Like you and I can't be like, oh, Susan, I wish you can eat 1,600 calories and lose fat, but you're going to have to eat 1,100 calories to lose fat because of XYZ reason. So cool, inform, then they consent, then they do the things, then they get the outcome, and then they believe in the process. Versus inform, try, dabble your toes in the water, do nothing, and then say that I'm broken and this sucks. So okay, cool, you never had a chance to materialize. And that's where I think the biggest problem in this industry is that we have a lot of good I shouldn't even say that because that's being too nice. We have a lot of people that are putting out information that might help, but they're not
Yes.
explaining it in a way that's helpful, right? Like there's a ton of menopause experts. And the second we start to see expert in a bio on an Instagram, we know that that individual is full of absolute horseshit.
So many hormone coaches. Oh my God.
Well, that's the thing is like I got certified through NCI for hormone coaching, which I don't do. I have the piece of paper, which means nothing. I did a self-guided module where I learned some terminology and I learned some relationships, but I don't use that stuff every day, so I'm not an expert at it. And then I also got a mindset certification, which means absolutely jack shit because unless I practice talking to people about the variances in psychology, how the fuck would I ever know? Again, outside of learning verbiage and terminology, which equates to absolutely nothing. Like yesterday, I sent my clients a list of beginner strength training terms. Like what's a set, what's a rep, what's a drop set, what's a compound movement, like the basics. That's going to mean dick to them if they don't use it or if they don't expose themselves to it or if they don't practice it and understand it. Like, yes, giving somebody a list of ingredients or recipes or macros or workouts is a great place to start if they know how to fucking do any of it. If they know how to install it into their own lives, if they know how to squeeze it into these little areas of opportunity because they're managing their time well. Because most of people's problems have nothing to do with their inability to track macros or inability to go to failure on a set. Most of their problems stem from psychological issues that prevent them from prioritizing things, that prevent them from reducing stress, that prevent them from optimizing their time management. And that's when they can fit in all of these protocols. And then those protocols might have a chance to work.
Yeah, I completely agree. As someone who spends a significant portion of most days writing workouts and movements, the workouts and the movements are probably the thing that matters least. But it can be the thing that kicks the door open. So we can kind of start that snowball of good habits and good decisions and good reinforcements, and let someone like me chime in and start having real conversations with people, and then it starts happening. It's not the whatever 4 days a week for 45 minutes that you're doing. I am very careful about movement selection and building these programs for people, but it's the fact that they do it and then they're like, I'm going to, I just worked out. I'm also going to eat a little better. You know what? I'm going to go to bed early because I want to make sure I get my workout in tomorrow. You know what? I'm going to actually make sure that I balance my diet a little more because I need some energy for this workout that's coming up. And suddenly it's the workout, the 3 hours a week that we're doing. It's not that. It's all of these other changes that have piled up around that were motivated by that, which is cool, but that's not what's moving it forward. And it's really like empowering responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has stuff that they are born with that they can't do, wasn't their fault and they can't do anything about. Anatomical stuff, traumatic stuff, where you were born, geographical issues, economic prosperity, none of that is your fault. It was completely out of your control. Great. What levers can we pull?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why what separates, I think, any good practitioner or professional, whatever, is not harping on people's problems, but using their problems as opportunities, or at least illuminating the opportunities that exist. So, like yesterday, I had a woman that chimed in on one of my posts and was like, "Well, until I took XYZ supplement, I wasn't able to lose fat." I said, I promised you it wasn't the supplement. Did you happen to have also changed your eating and your lifestyle? And she said, yes, I did. She said, but I'm not saying that it was just the supplement. I'm like, you just did say it was just the
Right.
supplement. And then I asked you to clarify, and then you thought about it for half a second. And that's honestly, dude, that's the problem. Like, I call anybody that doesn't understand this stuff to the level that we do as pedestrians. So like
Sure.
any pedestrian dieter or any pedestrian lifter that just kind of consumes content, they create all of these half-assed contextless belief systems. And then those are the belief systems that now that follow them around for the rest of their life. It's like, well, I know that when I fast, I lose weight. Compared to what other evidence do you have of fat loss in your life? You don't. You have this one thing and now you're married to this one ideology. As opposed to like what we know about real science, which is the art or which is the process of disproving a theory. That's what science is. It's I have a hypothesis and I'm going to run 85 different experiments to disprove this one theory and put as many holes in it as possible to make sure that it's not true. And then I'm going to rehypothesize and run another 85 tests. But most people don't do that, right? Like they have the placebo effect, like you said. I'm going to start to work out, which is going to catalyze all these other things that are going to change in my life. So it wasn't the workout itself that created the fat loss. It was the improved sleep, the improved decision making surrounding food, which probably created a calorie deficit, which probably created fat loss, because we know that nobody can work out enough to actually lose a meaningful amount of fat without controlling their diet as well. So it's little things like that that is so simple for you and I to tease out and identify and to help people understand the importance of, versus if they keep getting chunks of contextless information from these large accounts that are speaking in absolutes, that are painting these black and white pictures, it's going to keep them stuck thinking that those are the only ways to do it when we know that there's a million and one ways to do it.
Yeah, and it seems to me a couple different kinds of people disseminating this information. The what I often think of as sort of like the new slash young coach, and they may not be like young, but they're new to coaching. A lot of times, this is someone, and we know a few of them who have
Yeah.
had amazing changes and transformations. They lost a staggering amount of weight, or they became incredibly strong, or they found dieting or working out or whatever. Their life is so much better than it was 2 years ago. They've been inspired to help other people, but the only thing they have is an N of one. The
Yes.
only thing they have is what exactly worked for them, and they try and smash everyone into that box. And 6 out of 10, it works kind of okay, which is it's cool for 6 out of 10 people, but the other four feel like failures. And it's a little bit of a lack of education and a little bit of a lack of perspective. I wonder to what degree, because I think it's easy to chase after people spreading disinformation and kind of leading people down the wrong path versus kind of keeping your eyes on your own work and your own clients and just doing the right thing of your corner of the internet. Because I fly back and forth between just like putting on blinders and helping my people and then picking fights.
I look at I didn't know about this. This one of the people in our group messaged me today on Instagram about this like supplement company that's popped up. I forgot what it was called, but it's like they're like oral peptides that
Oh, for
like
God's sake.
act like GLP-1s, but they're oral supplements. So I'm like,
I'm
okay,
sure
cool.
they do.
So they're bullshit.
Yeah.
But I like to be made aware of this shitty stuff that's out there, just
Yeah.
so I can help people again refute it and understand that it's hot garbage. But like I also, because my Instagram page is mostly food porn or coaches that I follow, I don't really see like that nefarious side of the internet. So I don't see like the TikTok kids, like all the people that like Joey Munoz and James Capola and all these people find content of that they stitch.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen a piece of that content, period. Like if something goes viral, like Andy Elliott putting his two daughters on stage, I'll see that because everybody and their mother had to chime in on it. But I find like content creation is so interesting to me because it's like we don't really have original ideas, but we have original ways of communicating those ideas. And why not put it out in our own words with our own experiences and our own biases and our own lens and let our audience get a feel for who we are as people? Because that's what makes people have a buying decision. It's who they relate to the most. Because what they're buying from coach to coach to coach doesn't really differ all that much. I mean, the reality is what an online coach's job is to give people workouts, to give people a system to follow, to have some type of feedback loop for accountability, to give them some nutritional guidance. And that's basically what we all do in a nutshell. It doesn't really differ from person to person. Like you might have an expertise in pain management that I don't have, but that doesn't mean I don't know anything about it. It just means that I'm not going to talk about it as much. I may have an expertise in dealing with women and with hormonal issues that you may not have, and I'll talk to that about more. Like So at the end of the day, like when it starts to get to a point where we're using other people's platforms to prop ourselves up, it shows me very, very likely that you just don't have a lot of your own originality and your own thoughts, which at some point you're gonna run out of runway as a practitioner. You have to, because there's no way, like, at some point you're going to outpace the shitty content that's getting made. Like, you have to. So for me, like, the information that we're giving people is so basic, but the only way that it'll stick is if they hear it often enough and they see it from multiple sources. So like if you say that strength training is good for this one XYZ reason, and then I say it and then 40 other people say it, well, hopefully that person follows enough of us to be able to see the same message. Be like, well, it's unlikely that they all plan to put the same post out every single day. So maybe there's truth to this. And now maybe that person will actually believe in that system and try it, as opposed to they follow the Eddie Abus of the world or whoever else has 3 million. Who's the chick that always wears like the orange glasses and says crazy shit about stuff at the grocery stores?
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know her name.
Her name is like Primal something, I think.
Something, yeah.
Anytime you have like the orange glasses and like the don't eat this because it's going to kill you chemicals, I still don't understand how anybody with any level of rationale or logic will look at that information and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like how does that like, you're somebody who will spend 6 years researching all of the features of a car before you buy one, right? Or you're going to go ask like the barista 50 questions about what's in the coffee before you order it, but then you just blindly accept that the chemicals in the food are actually making you fat or killing you to some degree. It's like, do you really believe that we live in a country where they will put actual deathly poisons on our shelves and try to kill? Like, this isn't fucking Nazi Germany in 38. Like, the claims that people make to me are just so wild. And it's like, if you believe that, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, it's completely crazy, and it feeds into there's a part of our industry that is heavily invested in still convincing people that it's really complicated and magical, and you need a guru to really shepherd you through all. No, everyone's been lying to you forever. That's why it hasn't worked.
Yep.
Not because you haven't like actually made dramatic change. You say you want dramatic change, things are gonna have to change pretty dramatically. That's how that works, and it is going to be uncomfortable. No, it's this incredibly confusing thing that only I can shed light on, because in my in my 24 years I finally figured it out. Like, no, you've been in shape, bro. You just like you look good on the internet, which is cool, but that doesn't make you an expert at any of these things, and you're just taking advantage of scared people.
And I tell that to people all the time. I tell people, listen, I have a much easier path than you do. I don't have children. I'm not married. I work for myself in the industry that I'm literally talking to you about, which is health and fitness, which means I have access to the things that you'll never have access to. I can write off things like gym memberships and gym clothes, which makes my life easier. So everything in my life is curated to be the fittest and healthiest person I can possibly be. Yet I still have all the same problems that everybody else does, which is I like sweets and I like crunchy, salty things. And I like having craft cocktails that are too expensive and too sugary. And I like not working out. And I like laying on my ass and watching Netflix for 5 or 6 hours straight. But the reason why I don't succumb to those things is because I like those things less than I like feeling like shit. You know what I mean? Like, I hate feeling like shit enough to where that's enough of a why for me to not do those other things in excess. That's all it is. And I think it just comes down to the fact that, like, I've been used to delaying gratification for so long.
Mhm.
I started at 15. Like, I started exercising, training, eating better, understanding my nutrition better at that age. And I never stopped. Most people, they might start in high school and in college because they play sports. But then what happens? They get married, they have kids, they start careers, they start businesses, and they get put on the back burner voluntarily. Granted, again, like, I don't ever want to dissolve people of responsibility. It's, you chose to put yourself third or fourth or fifth. You chose the career or the children or the housekeeping stuff or this and that over yourself. Doesn't mean you couldn't have done both in some drib or drab situation, or you couldn't have had some bare minimum standards for yourself. You just chose to completely stop. Like, the amount of people I talk to on an almost weekly basis that tell me that they haven't worked out in months. Like, I can't even fathom a world in which that would happen to me, period. Like, I just couldn't. Like, I tore my Achilles in 2023. That's one joint on my body that's not functioning. That's it. My knee in that leg worked. My hip in that leg worked. So, and then my entire upper body was functional. My entire right side was functional. Why the fuck would I stop working out because of one joint not operating at full capacity? I'll just find ways to work around it. But like I talk to people who stub a toe and sprain it,
Yep.
and then they don't train for 3 months because their doctor's like, well, you shouldn't lift weights. Who's lifting weights with their fucking toe?
Yes. All right, we won't do the toe lifts today. Everything
Like,
else I think is on the table.
you can do literally almost every, like, you're walking from place to place with
Yep.
very little pain and discomfort. Why would that disqualify you from doing a leg press or doing a leg extension or doing a bicep curl or a fucking overhead press? Like, there's certain shit that just doesn't make sense to me, and I have to ask so many questions to understand that person, to be like, okay, where on the like totem pole of importance is this stuff to you? Because you're making it sound like it's the most important thing in the world, but everything you've just told me and all of your actions would state very clearly otherwise, because everything else is taking precedent over this one very simple thing, which is you spending 2 hours in the kitchen and 3 hours in the gym. That's 5 hours total of commitment of time in a week. Like, we're not, like, you and I don't ask for a lot at all. Like, at the most, 60 minutes of cardio for most of my clients, 2 to 3 days in the gym at the bare minimum, which can be 40 minutes to 60 minutes to whatever you want it to be. Shit, it could be 30 minutes. I don't care. And then like a couple hours in the kitchen, just ingredient prepping your food so that you can grab and go and assemble things as needed or bring them with you to work so you can have something to eat 2 or 3 times a day. Like, if that's asking a lot, then I don't know how to further regress that.
And I think it's asking those questions and being really direct, because everything you're describing to me, like, I don't know, it may sound harsh to people. It sounds empathetic to me. I'm asking you to show up for yourself. You just told me this is a big priority for you. You just told me this matters. You are paying me pretty decent money to make this happen for you. Everything else in your life tells me this is priority number 8. So, is it because you think 2 through 7 have to get thrown out the window to make this happen? Because it doesn't. It's 4 or 5 hours a week. That might mean we need to move a couple things around. It doesn't mean you need to ignore your family. It doesn't mean you need to quit your job. It doesn't mean you need to sleep 12 hours a day. It doesn't, like, that's not it. And the dirty secret is the first 12 weeks are the hardest.
Yeah.
And then it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And you're not, because I'm sure I don't think about meal prepping much anymore. It's just a thing that kind of happens. My wife and I, she makes the salads. I make some protein and carbs. We don't talk about it that much. There's always some stuff in the fridge. It's fine.
Yep. I mean, like right now, I have 4 pounds of ground beef defrosting in my sink because I noticed that when I opened my fridge this morning, there was one container of ground beef left and it was half eaten. So I'm like, okay, logic tells me that if I only have this much ground beef left and this much ground turkey left and this much chicken breast left, I'm going to need more protein because there's multiple people in the household who eat above 200 grams of protein a day. And the simple math of that just doesn't make sense. And I always have extra stuff in my freezer for that reason. So that way I don't have to run out to the store. I could just pop it in tonight when I get an hour, not even. It's going to take me 30 minutes to throw that into a pan, season it, brown it, container it into 3 containers, and then draw from that as my protein source a couple times a day. Like, it literally is that simple. And I think the problem again is it's the macro recipes, right? And I'll give you a perfect example. We just bought a Ninja Creamy, which
Sure.
we finally joined the club, and I'm actually disappointed we didn't buy the one with the soft serve on it. I don't know
I
if
didn't
you
know there
saw
was
that.
one with the soft serve on
Yeah,
it.
yeah. There's
Suddenly I'm
one
interested.
there's one that's like $350, and it's two separate, it's two like attached units, and there's a side of it that has a soft serve machine on it. Which, I mean, who doesn't need a soft serve machine at the house?
Interesting.
But then, like, I was looking through like the recipes of all the different like macro friendly ice creams you can make with the protein powders and the zero sugar this and the fat free that. And I got to tell you, man, it was fucking overwhelming because I looked through like 12 of these recipes and I can see where the overwhelm starts. It's like I'm overloaded with information, which immediately pauses me from wanting to take any action. Instead of that, what I did was, let me find the 2 of these that are the most exciting to me flavor wise. And I'm just going to work on perfecting these 2 recipes in however way I want. So there was like a banana mud pie one, and there was like an Oreo one. So I just
Okay.
pulled those 2. I looked at the ingredients. I shopped for the ingredients. They're all in my fridge and my pantry now. And I'm just going to play with those 2. And I see this happen when I send people my follow-up email after their onboarding call. It's like the email is like their blueprint for all the things that I'm going to have them do and the different tips and things I have for them and the different pieces of direction I have for them. And it's a relatively long email. So what do people do sometimes is they open this email in their car while they're driving with their
Right.
kids screaming in the back, and they look at it like, oh my God, I have to do all this stuff. Well, it's like, no, if you go to the top of the email, it says the only thing you're responsible for is tracking food and sending me training videos. Everything else is helpful advice that you can follow at any point or not. But because you're opening it in an overwhelmed, anxious headspace with other things on your plate at that moment, you're looking at this as like this overwhelming to do list that you'll never get done. The same way that I looked at 12 recipes and I'm like, how the fuck am I going to figure this out? I don't want to read any of this. This is too annoying. Yeah, I can certainly do that. But it's like, why did I buy the creamy? And why do I even want to do any of this stuff? It's like, because it's going to allow me to have my cake and eat it too from an ice cream perspective. So find a couple recipes that work and just do them over and over again until you get really good at them, or scrap them for something else that might make sense. Like people just overcomplicate all of this stuff because there's too much information and it gets overwhelming.
Yeah, the basic, the easy, and the repeatable are where it's at. And having it be okay that most things aren't treats, but they're fine. And it's okay to enjoy food. And I have people who literally just think food is fuel and are like they'll put whatever in a blender and just drink it. And a beautiful steak dinner or a blender full of greens, they're like, yeah, it's good, whatever, I don't care. And I
Wow.
have people who really care about what things taste like. And both of those people you kind of have to yank to the middle and be like, you need like four things that are okay and you're happy to do most of the time. You get two or three lunches and two or three breakfasts and a couple of dinners that you can just do on, complete autopilot. So when you're stressed and when you don't have time and when you need to run to a parent teacher meeting, you can blaze through the grocery store. You already know what you need. It goes in, bump, 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 bump. You don't have to think about it. That the initial part, starting to make the change, is very hard. I think part of the aim is looking to make it easy.
Yeah, and I think but there has to be some level of expectation that's realistic to say, because I don't do these things often, I'm not going to be great at them first. Or they're going to feel like a challenge initially because I don't have practice yet. Like when I first started playing around with ChatGPT, like I had no clue. I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know what it was supposed to do. It's like anything else in this world that we start that we're not good at. Like most people aren't natural at anything until they start exposing themselves to it, and they either start to realize that they have to work towards it or they have to figure out a way around it to figure out how to make it work for them. Like that's all it is. It's just shape shifting constantly. But people have this like weird innate idea that like I should be good at nutrition. Well, yeah, maybe if it was 100 years ago and the only options you had were vegetables, fruits, tubers, and lean meat, and that's all you had access to, it's not hard to be good at nutrition when that's all you can eat. But now you walk into the grocery store and there's all these wonderful, tasty things in front of you. When do most people go to the grocery store? After work. What are they doing at work all day? Not eating and stressing the fuck out. When I walk into a grocery store and I'm hungry, there's going to be a way different cart when I leave than when I'm going in there 3 meals into my day and not thinking about food whatsoever. I'm just going to grab the staples. I'm going to grab the stuff that's on the list that's needed and nothing extra. When I'm walking into that grocery store, that list will become 17 items longer because I will walk by things and impulsively grab them because I'm human and I like tastes and I like indulgence like all of us do. And I think it's just understanding like you can have your cake and eat it too to some degree, but you also have to understand that you as an individual might have physiological limitations that don't allow you to be completely frivolous with your calories. And that just comes down to just basic personal responsibility and a slight level of education that really doesn't take all that much to understand.
And what we're kind of talking about is nutrition and really habits and behaviors as a skill that you can develop. And some people are already good at it. And there's a bunch of skills that everyone hearing this, there's skills you have that you're really good at that now you don't think about anymore. But no one thinks it's weird. If I hand you a saxophone and I'm like, let me hear it, unless you're about to shock me, you're probably going to say, I don't really know what to do. Okay. But if you really want to learn, we can make it happen. Being good at nutrition is like that. I have this conversation sometimes with athletes with different movements. I'll give them a movement that I think they really need. They won't be good at it. Those people, the natural athletes, get incredibly frustrated very quickly because they can always do stuff. Like they get handed a movement and they're just great at it. And now I'm having them do some weird isometric glute hold with a crossover thing and it's not working. That's
Yep.
exactly the reason I'm giving it to them, is because this is a chink in their armor, a weakness they have, and they fly off the handle because they've never been not good at movement. And then you have the conversation of like, yeah, this is a skill you don't have yet. Like the first time someone handed you a baseball, you looked ridiculous. Now you look pretty good. We can build that same skill of nutrition, of grocery shopping, of meal prepping. And it's okay that you're not good at first. And some people, it's going to be harder for them to learn than others, just like everything else.
Well, and I think what you said at the beginning of the conversation too, like our circumstances when we're born are going to dictate a lot of our potential for success or results because it builds the individual that we're going to be. You know, I grew up in a household where I could eat whatever I want. My parents had no limitation to what I was. I mean, I was eating, like the big things of croissants from Costco,
Yes.
like this bit. I would probably finish one of those myself every week. I mean, I think there's 30 croissants on there. So you're talking about multiples per day. I was drinking a 2 liter bottle of soda every day. I was eating an
Mm-hmm.
8 pack of hot dogs every single day because my parents were never home. So whatever was at the house with a George Foreman grill that I knew how to use was what got eaten. And it was because my parents were just too busy to really worry about what I was consuming. And this is back in also the 90s where we just played all day long as kids. I mean, up till the point we were like in our late teens, we were just outside running around unsupervised for hours and hours at a time. So like the energy expenditure that we had was just through the fucking roof.
I'm going to go
So
ride
like,
bikes. Be back in 8 hours.
right, like or like I'll walk to the next town or ride to, because there was no like I don't. I walk around my neighborhood constantly with it. I don't see any kid outside. I don't see one child outside. I see people like older people taking intentional walks because I think that's starting to become a thing again. Thank
Mhm.
God. But again, like intentional. It wasn't just play. Like we don't have a play-based community society anymore. Everything is indoors. Everything is seated. Everything is in front of a computer or in front of a screen. So I think it's even discouraged people from having any level of curiosity to stretch themselves into different places. Like getting somebody to like go outside and do something that's just seemingly boring to them is going to be such a turnoff. And then there's also this expectation that because we have all these different modalities of training now, there's a house for everything. There's a row house and a bike house and, a lifting house. Like there's all these establishments with all these different fun workouts and they're billed to be fun. I mean, look at like whenever you see like Peloton videos or you see that one guy who's like a celebrity basically now on the bike. Um, the dude is a super charismatic gay guy who I absolutely love. I forgot his name. But like everything is based around like it's gonna be fun and there's a disco ball attached to it. It's gonna seem like a fucking music festival when you walk in. Like that's not how I used to train. I used to walk into the gym with no music on, half the lights flickering and broken, and you were like in the back corner squatting 5 sets of 20 because you had a coach that just was an evil person. That's how I grew up training. I never expected training to be fun. I actually expected training to be miserable. And when it was enjoyable, it was like, oh, cool, this was kind of nice. I didn't want to fucking kill myself for the last hour and a half. Now it's like people won't even start unless there's like a promise of fun to it. So I think again, like, what does this all come down to? Psychology, expectations, expectation management, and setting people up for the idea that like you may not have the best hour in the world when you walk into the gym, but it's also because this hour of discomfort is setting you up for days of comfort later on down the road. So it's like, how much can you just have a little bit of sweat equity now and make yourself slightly uncomfortable in the moment for years of peace and freedom that you'll never be able to achieve if you just avoid these things today?
I had this conversation with another coach yesterday she has a client, and this client loves her treadmill workouts. She has like a 30-minute treadmill workout she's been doing for years, loves it, finds it extremely enjoyable, has been doing the same thing for years, but came to this coach who is an incredible coach because she wants some pretty specific changes. And this is a small coaching group. And the coach basically came to us and said, hey, what do I do? She does my strength work. We finally got into the place where she can kind of put in some effort and intensity and is feeling what work feels like, but she won't do it for cardio. We do this treadmill thing and she loves it, but it's not moving the needle. And my response was, oh, you're not there to, it shouldn't be fun. If she's having a great time, she should do that on her own time, because and so many like big boutique fitness classes, entertainment is an intentional part of it. And I'm not against it, especially if that's a place, if that's a social outlet for you, if you're meeting people, if that's where your friends are, like the music gets crazy and you get sweaty and you feel better at the end, rock and roll. I am
Yep.
on board for that. That
Yep.
might not be what you need to get the change you want.
Yes.
So we might have to layer things. I totally have people who are going to like 2 group classes a week and having a great time. I ask them to tell me like, oh, what are we doing? Like, oh, I'm going to a glute class and an ab class. Great, high five. Glutes and abs, I love it. We're going to do a bunch of other stuff. That's going to be super duper no fun. It's going to let you show up to those classes even better and actually make the changes you want. I'm not telling you to not go have fun,
Yeah.
but the place where the foundry where real change happens is a little uncomfortable. So if you're having a good time and everything feels cool with me, that probably means I'm making a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, and even I got into the rut of just doing the same shit over and over again. But again, like where I differ from most people is I don't have expectations. I don't walk into the gym expecting that a workout's going to change my physique or get me stronger. I don't expect that if I have 2 days worth of nailing my nutritional targets, that I'm going to start all of a sudden looking like a bodybuilding model. I have no expectations. I do these things because they've just literally become things I don't mind doing and that they make me feel good. And most of it is because it's rooted in quality of life. It makes me like people don't like I'm 41 years old. There's people that look at me and they're like, "How are you 41? Like you look so much younger than most people." I'm like, "Well, yeah, because I've taken care of myself to some degree for the last 26 years of my life when most of my friends who are my age, I mean, forget the gray hair and the body fat. I mean, they look weathered and old because they don't do anything. Like it's tons of booze, tons of food that's unregulated, absolutely no like when I say no movement, I mean I have friends that I don't think they hit 2 or 3 thousand steps a day, period. And they work from home every day. And like a yard work session destroys them on like they're fucking dead for 3 days after doing yard work. Like you're 40 years old, you're not 90. Like your body should be able to bend and move and squat and hinge and do all these things where like you're not in writhing pain because you had a fucking prune in your hand for 3 hours pruning bushes. Like that shouldn't kill you. But people are always looking at nutrition and fitness as this vehicle for like this aesthetic change and nothing else. It's like, well, the aesthetic change comes when you're very specified in how you do the nutrition and fitness stuff, which can certainly happen at some point. But that shouldn't be the only reason why you're doing it, because it should be something that's an enhancement to your mood, to your energy, to your digestion, to your cognitive function, to your ability to just be a pleasant person or to have built in stress resilience that you didn't have before. Like that's why I do these things. And then when I want to ratchet it up, like I'm going to a Vegas pool party in July, and I'm vain. I'm very vain. I want to show up and I want to fucking have people look at me because I'm jacked and because I'm lean. And I know that I'm not going to have to change a whole hell of a lot from now until then to make that happen because my average behavior keeps me at this body shape and size more often than not because this is my norm. Like my norm is not to say yes to every dinner out or to every time I get invited for a drink. I'm just okay, cool, I'll be there. Or, having multiple snacks in the cupboards that are just completely uncontrollable. Like I avoid these things because I know my own problems with them. If I'm stoned at 9 o'clock at night and there's a bag of Stacy's pita chips in my cupboard, it's gone. It's gone. I'm going to eat the entire thing without even thinking twice about it, and then waking up tomorrow morning and being like, fuck. Oh well, back to the drawing board. Like I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. But there's people that still feel as though they can have all of it. I can be the leanest and the strongest and the happiest and the most flexible, and I can just make whatever decision I want and nothing's gonna like no, like you have to sacrifice a little bit. And without any level of stress, controlled amounts of stress is how we get the body to adapt to things. Like progressive overload has to happen in cardio too. Like I suck at cardio. I've been doing it now regularly for 6 months and getting incrementally, very slowly better at it. But like only the other day did I realize that I ran almost a 5K. My heart rate never went above 155. And I was proud of that. Like that to me was a metric of success. Whereas most people would have quit 3 months ago because it was still difficult for them to even finish 5K. For me, I'm like, I don't even care like how long it's taking me. I'm just slowly watching myself get better at it, and it's killing me less and less, which is fucking awesome. That's progress. But again, reasonable expectations.
Well, reasonable expectations, you're paying attention to different metrics than
Yes.
some people would, right? I've been running again for like the past 4 months. I used to like run marathons and stuff,
Oh, no shit.
and I found a barbell and stopped. And I've kind of come back to it. I was like, I want to be able to do this better. And I couldn't tell you how long a 5K takes me to run. But the last time I ran 5K, it was pain free and I felt cool. Those are the metrics I'm tracking because I'm not really competitive against anyone. And I write the times down, but I'm indifferent to them. I imagine they're around the same, or I honestly don't know. But it's improvement for me.
Yeah.
How do you have with this long term in mind? Because I will tell people this all the time. Like, I want you to be able to say yes to everything in your life, show up as like the best mother, community member, et cetera, and love the way you look, feel, and perform. How do you have conversations with that? What we're doing is changing the way you are going to live the rest of your life, even if you're only hanging out with me for whatever 3 to 6 months, because people want that, you know, 21-day challenge. I feel amazing. Things have changed. This is finally it. And you and I both know that's not where the reality is. It's really, what are you doing 3 years from now when you've forgotten my name and my Instagram handle? What does your life look like then? Have I set you up for success then?
I have to understand what's important to them and why. So like, you know, I just told you that vanity is one of my big whys. But it's also a reasonable amount of vanity. Like I know I'm vain enough to be lean enough, but I'm not so vain that I need to be as lean as a bodybuilder. Because I know what it takes to get there, and I'm just not willing to make those sacrifices. Like I don't want to eat out of a plastic container and never have a restaurant meal for the next 16 weeks. I don't want to train for 7 to 9 hours a week. I don't want to have my entire life revolve around what that pursuit looks like. So I'm just not willing to do that. So what I do is I have to understand what it is that's important to you, and then I start asking you a bunch of questions about what you're willing to put into this process and what is an absolute hard no. So once we start and understand the hard no's and what the willingnesses are, then I can at least come up with a reasonable plan and also give you reasonable expectations of results. Because I think the biggest problem is a lot of coaches don't know how to meet people where they're at and create realistic expectations with them. So then that person is always outpacing the coach and outpacing what they're doing. Whereas for me, like I talk to people like they're 3 fucking years old, and I tell them that we have to unwind 20 years of clock bullshit and bad habits. And oh, by the way, like you're 45% body fat. Like you could be in a bikini tomorrow, but you're not going to look the way you want to look. So wear the fucking bikini. Who cares? You're just going to be fat and in a bikini. Okay, cool. But at least you can be fat and strong in a bikini. You could be fat and less bloated in a bikini. Like that could work too. But you're not going to be significantly less fat for another 6 to 8 months. So just understand. Do you understand that? Yes. Okay, cool. Now you're an informed buyer. Now you know what to expect. Now you know not to spin off the planet when you wake up next week and you're still 45% body fat and not 48. It's still like you're moving the needle. It's just slower than you want it to be. Like all results are going to be slower than what you want them to be all the time, whether it's at work, whether it's with your relationship advancing, whether it's your kid's developmental process slower than it needs to be. Like nobody's walking around being like, oh, I outpace my expectations constantly. Like I'm like that's great for you, but that's not most of us. Like most of us are always being like, "Fuck, I wish this was faster. I wish this was easier." Yeah, fine, but I don't wish for things. I either do the thing and hope shit materialize, or I don't do the thing and then don't beat myself up about it because if I didn't do it, I clearly didn't care that much about it.
Yeah.
I think that's really all it comes down. And I think that's the hard part is when you can get people to understand that the things they devote time, energy, and money to are the things that they care about, then they don't need to tell you anything. I'm like, I don't give a shit what comes out of your mouth. You can tell me whatever you want. I can see by your actions what's important and what's not. And if you're continuously ignoring the fundamentals and trying to biohack your way into answers or problems, well, I know that you're just trying to circumvent the work. And you can't. You can only do it for so long until you realize I'm just going to keep living in this circle for the rest of my life and always coming back to the same result. Nothing's actually changing. That's why those people get stuck. And for me, I'd much rather give you the hard, honest truth right from day one before you even pay me a dime than giving you a whole bunch of hope and potential that you haven't even earned yet.
Yeah, the shortcut, the dirty trick is the long way around, and the hard way is actually the shortcut.
Yeah.
If you spent the past 3 years trying to find the fast way, if you get off that path and spend 6 months doing the hard long way around, you're actually going to get where you wanted to go with however many 30-day challenges, 75 hard, whatever the hell you were doing, you were hoping would get you there faster.
I've never understood the concept of hope when most of this is tied into your ability to just have agency. It's always surprising to me what people don't think they have control of.
Completely.
Like I always ask them, I'm like, do you realize that you have control of X, Y, Z? Like I'm asking you an honest question. You have control of what time you go to bed, right? Well, but my kids, I'm like, well, who puts your kids to bed? You do. So have you set a bad example for your children? You can unwind that clock too. Like let's say they're in their early teens and they're used to going to bed at midnight because that's when you allowed them to stay up until. Well, the next 6 months are gonna suck. But if you say, "Hey, lights out by fucking 9:30," then it's gonna be lights out by 9:30, and you're gonna have resistance, and that initial path of parenting is gonna blow. I don't know what it's like. I chose not to have children, but I have dogs, and it's not that much different. I can train the dog to untrain certain things also. Like my dog's got into a bad habit of fucking barking at every single person that walked up to the door. So I had to train myself to put their shock collars on every morning, have their fucking shock thing by my desk, and every single time I heard somebody, I would immediately be at attention with the remote in my hand, giving them commands, and then making sure that every time they bark, they got a negative reinforcement for it. Because I don't want that behavior to persist. But it's not training the dog, it's training me to be responsible enough to use that tactic every day until their behavior changes. So that's where, like, I think parents and other people have it all fucked up. They're like, well, the kid's not listening because you're not putting any work into it. You're not allowing them a space to comply to something because you're not holding them accountable to anything because you're not even holding yourself responsible for it. So it's like, why do you expect this change to occur? Like, change has to happen systemically and globally for it to stick, as opposed to you being like, well, I don't understand. I tried it for like my parents. My parents were bitching to me about sleeping an issue. So I sent them some CBD gummies. My mother took them for one night, didn't notice the difference, and stopped taking them. I'm like, okay, mom,
Is that the
how?
college try?
I'm like, how? Do you still take your blood pressure medication? She's like, yeah, every day. I'm like, do you feel a difference? She's like, not really. I'm like, okay, but you still take it, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, why don't you take these every night for 5 or 6 days and see if it makes a difference? Just give it a shot. Like, don't just do one night and quit and be like, nah, it didn't work. Okay. Like, with that attitude, nothing's ever going to work. Like, I mean, at least for me, the way that I tell people, 6 to 8 weeks before you feel anything change with training, like significantly. At least 30 days of nutritional changes to see anything change or materialize with nutrition. So, like, that's weeks and months for things to just even be evaluated, to even be able to come to some conclusion that it is or is not working. Whereas most people have the bandwidth to do it now for hours or days, if we're lucky. And they're like, no, that didn't work. On to the next thing.
Yeah, you have to move a lot of dirt before you start noticing the pile growing in any meaningful way. And that's hard. And you also describe something that I've run into a ton of times with people, and that's them describing their life as something that's happening to them and reframing that. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like I had a college reunion and a family thing and went out with my friends and this happened at work and this and this. And you're like, okay, sure. Why are you describing these as events that like magically came into your life? You've had your work schedule for several months. You invited your college friends to town. You said yes to all these social engagements. What's up? And they describe priorities that don't align with the actions they're taking. And I'll say, great. If that's the most important thing, that's totally cool. This probably isn't the time for us to work together because this is hard. It won't be hard forever. Nothing hard is hard forever. That's also one of the big secrets. Like the hard part gets easier or you get harder.
Yeah.
So you will move through it, but this is the trick. And if you're not ready for that, then this isn't a good time for us to work together. But acting like your schedule and your social engagements and these choices that you're making are something that an outside force is imposing on you is a mindset you really need to shift so you can take control of everything in your life.
The word no is so great, isn't it?
It's so powerful.
I know. Like I mean, now that I'm 41 and I just don't care about people pleasing whatsoever, life has gotten so much easier and more peaceful. Like I just don't worry about like if I say no to somebody, there's no explanation. It used to be like, I would never say no. Then the evolution was I would say no, but I would explain myself for an hour. And then it was I would explain myself for a little bit less. Now it's like I say no and there's no like no, period, complete sentence, on with my day. And the amount of peace that that's brought me and brought a lot of my clients because they've adopted some of those same practices has been wild to watch. Because I really do believe, man, like people are codependent. They do rely on others to make them feel a certain way because they can't transform their own happiness or materialize their own happiness. They say yes to everybody because God forbid they say no to somebody and then have to explain why. And they overburden themselves with other people's bullshit. Like I don't watch the news. That doesn't make me a prick. It doesn't make me insensitive to other people's plights. I just have other things that I know I can control. That's what I'm going to focus on. And I think too many people are just like, well, what's happening in Gaza and Canada and in Mexico? And I'm like, you can't even string 3 meals together. And then you bitch to me that you're 60 pounds overweight, yet you're worried about all these global problems that you're not even doing anything about other than just thoughts and praying your way to answers. Like, if you have a meaningful connection to an issue socially or globally or economically, then pour your energy and time into that issue. Coincidentally, that's exactly how you get results with your own pursuits. You just pour into those things energetically or financially or time wise. That's it. Like, that's how it works. But again, like, the internet is pulling us into all these different directions, and then we're watching all the other people live their lives and wondering how they're doing it. I want to go back to a world where we don't have any of this stuff. But like, the only perspective you have is the 2 miles you were able to locomote your way through. That's all you had. I know that there's another end of this town, but it's really far away and it's going to take me a few days to get there. Though that was like simpler times, easier times. People probably didn't worry about anything at all. And it was like by the time a problem showed up on my doorstep, it was a real problem.
Yeah. And I think the real secret is everyone's been this worried forever. We just now have many more things to worry about. I'm going to forget, there was some Mark Twain quote about those of you who tend to worry now have the greatest selection in history. And he said this in the 1800s, and it's
That's crazy.
always that way. And I even reframe for if people are the people who are super worried and want to get involved in political causes, I'm on board. For the same way people want to show up as amazing parents, I'm on board. You can't do any of this well if you're not taking care of yourself. You need to be intentionally a little bit selfish so you are healthy and functional and capable. And if that means being able to run from masked weirdos who are in your town, you should be able to run. I'm down. I'm okay to train for that. Let's train for that. But we need you to be able to show up the way you want to show up, and that's developing these habits and caring about yourself and making that obvious every single day.
Yeah, I like the thing I heard, and I'm sure we could probably end it here, is the thing I heard the other day was if somebody followed you around for an entire day, would they see where your priorities are? And to me, like, I make that so clear. I can close my mouth all day long and not say jack shit, but if people followed me every day and followed me around, they know exactly what I cared about. Because that to me is louder than anything. What you do is so much more powerful than what you'll ever say. Because I mean, you know me, I love talking and showing up and all that stuff, but to me, like, none of that matters. You can say whatever you want to say. If your actions don't align with it, then it's just words coming out of your mouth, and and at some point it does start to actually rob you of your integrity. And now you're the boy who cried wolf constantly, and nothing that you say anymore will be taken seriously. And to me, like that's why I stopped having conversations with my mother about fat loss. And there's certain people in my life that when they use when they tie the two words fat and loss together, my mind immediately turns off, and I'll just change the subject. I'll be like, politely, I don't have any care about what you're going to say now because you've talked to me about this 75 other times and you cared very little about what I said then. You're not going to care about what I say now. So let's just leave this relationship as is, cordial and fun, and not worry about nutrition whatsoever because you don't care. Fair? Okay. And that's it. Like, again, boundaries and no. The two most valuable things that people will ever be able to practice that will clear a room for them to actually be able to do the shit they know they have.
I couldn't agree more. Aram, tell people where they should find you. What do you have to plug? Where should people reach out if they want to reach out and get down with you?
Well, if you want to hear more of the same stuff that all of us good coaches are talking about, at 4 Weeks to the Beach, the numbers 4 and 2, the words weeks, beach. I will answer DMs. I don't have assistant coaches. I don't have VAs. So if you DM me, you will get me, and you probably won't be happy that you got me because I'll tell you what you need to hear. And usually through a very long voice note that you won't want to listen to. If you're a coach and you're listening and you want to develop yourself, your skill set, and your network, you should come to the Real Coaches Summit next year in April in Vegas, realcoachessummit.com. That's it. That's all I have to plug. I don't plug things.
That'll do it. We'll put all those in the show notes so you can, if you're listening to this, you can look down and press a couple buttons and connect directly with Aram. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Dude, I appreciate it. I hope you get a bunch more people from the network to join you too. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for listening to the Feel Strong podcast. If you want to reach out about solving your fitness problems, find us on Instagram at FeelStrongFit or apply to get started now on our website, feelstrong.me. Subscribing, rating, and sharing this podcast is an enormous help and has more impact than you know. Thank you for doing that if you're able. If you feel stuck, If you know where you want to go but you aren't sure how to get there, reach out. It's what we do.